Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting week of learning ancient hieroglyphics, a skill set that will come in use every day when you're bored and you're doodling. Alright, so let's take a look at the homework from last week, including some of the new vocabulary that we learned, and as always, the first step will be transliterating it, and then we will translate it. So, don't do this out of order. It's kind of important. Now, we're still in the past tense. I've been using the IW, someone did something, a lot because we're not working on structure, we're working on vocabulary. So we're keeping everything in the past tense right now. And that first word, hopefully you remember, is to witness, with the two fingers and the man is double determinatives. That's going to be followed by the water sign, which is an ED, meaning it's past tense. And who did the past tensing? In this case, we have the horned viper, the pronoun he. So he witnessed. And what did he witness? Well, he witnessed some ritual dancers, another word we learned last week. And then we throw in the word Lord, NB. Now, technically, this should have come before ritual dancers because we're saying he saw or he witnessed Lord of the Dance. See how I did that? All right. Let's move on to some more bilateral sounds. And this is one of my favorites, ND. It's a staff, although it's one of those that people, the Egyptologists, aren't quite sure what type of staff. And the D, remember, is J when it has the line under it. J, not D. So we're going to start with the circle in the center of the staff and then give it the little flower petals that go around it. Kind of looks a lot like He-Man's staff from the King He-Man figure from Masters of the Universe Classics. Yeah, go Google it. All right, so after you've done the petals, then we just do straight down, and there's our staff. Now, this is a very interesting glyph because it has a helper glyph, which is the NW glyph, which is the basket or the water jar, NW, in the square there. You'll commonly see NW following the nudge staff glyph. Now, the NW is not pronounced. It's kind of like Q with a U, like queen and quiet. You don't pronounce the U. It's just there. So when you see NW next to ND, you don't pronounce it. So here's an example. Here we have the staff, ND, followed by NW, and then a determinative. This is just pronounced nudge, nudge. You don't pronounce the NW helper. It's like the U in Q, U, like queen. So an interesting one. Very few glyphs have this, but a good one to remember. So this is the verb to grind, like, as if you're grinding coffee beans and turning them from a bean to a fine powder. All right, another example. So here we have the staff twice with its helper twice. So nudge, nudge. Again, we're not pronouncing the NW. This is the verb to ask. Again, with the determinative of a man pointing to his face, his mouth, meaning it's something you say, you ask. So hence why the determinative helps you. And you can ignore those helper glyphs. We see the helper glyph again in the word nudge, this time with a J snake at the end, the D with the line, pronounced J. So that's going to cancel out the J in the nudge. So you're not pronouncing nudge, judge, just nudge. And with the echo effect canceling out that single glyph sound, we have the verb to confer or grant, to grant something. Not like, Alan Grant, like to actually grant something. All right, here we have the guinea fowl. Nuh, nuh. And the H with the dot, remember, is hiss, like H in the back of the throat there. I know, the H's are a little different in ancient Egyptian, different from English. And remember, with the guinea fowl, you have the little goiter coming out the front, as well as, I guess, the horns on top. I mean, they're not horns, but that's how they're drawn. So that's going to differ from other birds. So here we have nuh, followed by huh, and a determinative. So the first thing you can probably notice is we've got some echo effect going on here with the H sound duplicated. But the determinative, again, reminding us of what the word is about, in this case, a time or a place, when you see the sundial at the end. So after crossing off our double sound, that's the echo effect, we just have an H left over. So there are two. So we do have to pronounce one of them. So it does wind up being n-h-h, because you can't cancel both of them. And with the sun disk as our determinative, it tells us this is a time or place, in this case, eternity. Not like the Marvel character, like the actual, timeline. All right, so another guinea fowl, followed by the flax, followed by the boot, followed by the loaf, and a determinative. You know it's a determinative because you've never seen it before. So, and it's at the end. See how that works? So again, we have a cancellation with the NH and H canceling out the second H. But the B and the T are new sounds, and of course the determinative is just there as your helper to remind you what you're looking at. And this is the word for neck. Nukhbt, nukhbt. Kind of like that place in Game of Thrones, the neck. All right. Now one of my favorite glyphs, num, like num 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 num, like Cookie Monster, right? So this is a butcher's knife. That's why I also think of Cookie Monster, like you're like hitting the food, num 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 num. All right. The trick is to know where to start drawing it. In this case, it's the bottom line. So first you go across, then go up, back around, and then do the loop up for the back end of the knife. And then, of course, straight down to connect where you started. It's all about knowing where to start drawing the glyphs. That's kind of the trick to all hieroglyphs, and that's what this channel is all about, is teaching you the right way. All right, so here we have the butcher's knife, num, used in a word. But notice it's not the first letter. The first letter is going to be the N water sign, because we have to read up to down, left to right, into the animal's faces, or into the determinative. So here we have nun, m, and a determinative. And what's interesting here is we have single glyph sounds surrounding a double bilateral sound. So you can cancel both of them out and only pronounce the bilateral. The two single sounds on either side replicate the sounds of the bilateral. And hey, once again, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, this is the word for dwarf. All right, so here's your homework for next week. Remember a little clue, the pun, P with an N, is the word this, which appears after a verb. So there's your hint there for this week. All right, guys, hopefully you can freeze frame that, transliterate, and translate it, and we'll be back next week with more vocabulary, more doodling, more fun, always here on the Spector Creative channel. Thanks for watching.